Is that Marquise?
Peace, bro. It's Marcus.
Marcus, peace, brother. My apologies. How you feeling, bro?
Good. How are you? How's everybody doing?
Well, we're doing great, man.
Good. First time here. Appreciate y'all for having the platform. Thank you.
Let me give you a round of applause. Everyone show some love for Marcus. He is here. Yo, brother, this is great to have you.
Thank you.
Where you from?
Philly, bro.
Philly. Oh yeah, we neighbors.
Right. So the heat wave kicking my butt too, man. I'm feeling it.
Oh man, listen, we're gonna survive that. We're gonna survive. The heat not gonna stop us.
I'm locked in the crib, got the AC on. I'm not going outside for 24 hours at least.
Lock in with our brother, man. Those are helpful words of wisdom and encouragement, man. Lock in, keep cool. But yeah, bro. So tell me, man, share with us what stood out to you.
As a fan of Nipsey's, I expected the book just to give us more like detail just around like his story. And some of the stuff I knew and some of the stuff I didn't know. I knew he was a descendant of East Africa by way of his father, but I like how you touched on it, how Jim Crow was talked about in the book, how the fact that California is named after a Black woman, freed slave, and how segregation and all that stuff. And it's crazy how deep they dive to tell this story, and they don't just give you like surface. So they build a lot of nuance, excuse me, and what was going on in the time periods before he was born, while he was growing up. And I found that a very interesting way to tell a story and bring it all together and how it connected to his life and how the things that were going on around his neighborhood before he got there and while he was there still had an impact on him as a man, the man he is today, or he was. Excuse me.
Nah, I appreciate you, man. Shout out to you, man. That was very insightful. That's one of the things I walked away from, reading the first kind of 7 chapters with as well. Interesting, when you talk about the story, right? If told from another audience, you might only get the gang story or he's a gang member, but you'll miss all of the other things that happen, right? That leads up to the emergence of gangs in California. And you get this great historical overview of what it meant to migrate from plantations across the country to California, and then also the emergence of community, community groups fighting against people trying to beat them down and move them out, and redlining and forming a commonality that forms into a gang, right? The fight against oppression. So I appreciate you for highlighting that. That's something that we're probably going to get to, but I want to acknowledge the fact that you brought that out. So that's what's up. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for the contribution. Is that Nia, sis? What's happening? Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
I'm working. We working here.
Yeah, I just came in the house. Give me 1 second. I'm going downstairs.
Oh, you got it. You got it.
But no, I listen to Nipsey. I listen to Victory Lap mostly when I'm like feeling like I need some encouragement. Like I'm just feeling like drained and beat and all of that. And now reading this book and just really getting the full spectrum of his resilience, it's just like, girl, you need to strap the bootstraps to get it together, keep going. It's just very encouraging because it's like, I've dealt with a lot of things. I'm an artist, so I understand like trying to build it and really trying to balance finding that income so that you can keep your creative spirit and making sure that, the way that you're making money doesn't interfere with your mind. So, I really appreciate this book and everything. Like, I didn't even, I call myself a Nipsey fan, but I'm learning so much more that I'm just like, man, like I should have been knowing all of this stuff. So I just really appreciate it. And I feel like it's very encouraging, and it's been encouraging me to just keep going and stay strong.
Oh, no, I appreciate that, man. That's deep. That's deep that, you're able to connect with the book and find motivation in it. There's a lot of motivation in our stories. And when we get past the surface of some of the things that have become of our stories, right? The news, media, and other outlets will report only the surface stuff. When we get embedded into some of the truths of the challenges that some of our people have faced, we come to understand more that there's a lot of commonality in our experiences, but there's also something to be learned from them. And I think that's powerful. Valencia, give me something that that connected with you as you explored some of what Nipsey Hussle meant throughout, especially in our reading.
I was actually listening to what everybody was saying. So I was going to say, like, just to Marquise's point, that I didn't like that there was so much, I felt like there was so much history in there, and I wanted more just to be about him. So it was kind of surprising to me that that it gave us so much context, and it made me wonder what was the purpose. So when I heard your critique on it, I was like, okay, that was the purpose. And it made me look at what I did not like differently. So I'm glad that you shared that. And then to Nia's point, I really appreciated the introduction being about Lauren London's perspective. I was shocked about that being how the book opened as well, because I was like, wow, they're using the voice of a Black woman to tell this guy's story. But then it wasn't that. It became different as you went into the actual chapters, but that took me by surprise, and it actually made me feel like you just said, Nia, it really empowered me, because I'm a wife. And as a wife, like, I'm my husband's champion first. Like, I have to make sure that he believes in himself, you know what I mean? And so when I was listening to what they were saying, and it was hard to listen to. It's very hard to look at anything Lauren London, Nipsey, period. Like, I don't like to look at anything because it's traumatic, right? And so when I forced myself to listen to that part and then reread it, I was just like, oh, I remember the horse picture. I remember like all the things that I remember when they broke up on Twitter. That part wasn't in the book, but I remember like all these things. And then when I got finished, I got on TikTok, and you know, our phones watch us. So as soon as I got on TikTok, it was this interview between Lauren London and Angie Martinez. And I'm bringing it back to the book now to say that it made me feel good that I was reading the book too. Because as I was watching her in real time, I was like, man, this makes me feel like I'm a part of their family. And that's really what I think. I mean, I know that there are so many goals that Nipsey had, but I think one of his goals was to create a community. And I was not a Nipsey fan. Like, I heard about Nipsey from the guys right before he passed away. They were saying this is the album of the year. And then I looked up, he was gone. And so I'm never going to be like a fake Nipsey fan now that he's gone. But it did make me feel like I was in his tribe, like the same community that we're trying to build, which was inspired by the community he built. So yeah, thank you both, Marquise and Nia, for sharing, because y'all got me like putting my own back together. Yeah.
No. You put shout out to you. I mean, that was very insightful, very profound, because you introduced this dynamic between, you know, a woman, a wife, and a husband that doesn't get told, and you could miss it, right? Because the story is so compelling that you could focus on the salacious parts of all of it, the gang activity, all the stuff that was reported in the media, how he died, but you can miss that that's a husband and a wife, and that's a wife's voice talking about losing her husband and what he meant not only to the family, but what he meant to the community. Now, I mean, Nipsey Hussle's presence in my life came as a result of, you know, talking to my brother, and he had, you know, my brother Troy, he had put me on, and he's like, yo, you gotta listen to this dude, man. He's spitting. But he was like, nah, but he's talking some of the stuff like, yeah, nah, he's in the right, he's speaking the language we speaking. And I'm like, all right, and he's from the West Coast. So I was like, all right, let me give him some love. So I heard a couple of mixtape stuff, but then when Victory Lap came out, I said, no, I get it. No, I get this. Like, I stopped what I was doing. I was like, no, I get it. And man, I wouldn't even call it, to watch communities coalesce. I mean, in some sense, to converge and then come together. It was rather interesting. And I say converge in this kind of real sense, right? Before we go to like where we're going to go in a moment, I just want to make sure that I share this, because I hope everyone who, you know, is definitely a member has listened rather to the Don Peoples interview. Amazing interview. Businessman, Black billionaire, is building in New York City, maybe the tallest building ever in New York. But Don Peoples is mentioned in this book. And so Don Peoples is mentioned in this book in such a way of being an advisor, sitting on the advisory board on Vector 90. And so when you think about Vector 90 in this book too, you also tap into Nipsey's relationship with David Gross.